here we go. Welcome back to Gear or Gadget. I gotta apologize real quick. We have a fly in the studio. It's driving me nuts. So if you see this thing buzzing around, it is what it is. We're rolling with the punches today. We are joined by Northwest Pennsylvania native Curt Delattre. I'm butchering it.
Delattre.
I don't know why.
Man, I get so many different names. It's all good.
My apologies.
Curt D. All good.
Curt D. There you go. Curt D is in the house.
Yeah.
So we are going to get in this, but before we do that, we got to lay down the ground rules. I'm sure you know them, but just in case you guys don't, no brand bashing. That's not what we're here for. Number 2, we cannot use the term game changer. If you use the word, dude, we're going to kick you out and probably never invite you back.
Okay.
And then 3,
those arrows before you leave.
Yeah.
And 3, if you guys find some value in this video, just leave us some feedback, smash that sub button for us. It's greatly appreciated. Let's get in it.
My piece of gear or my item today is a back band for saddle hunters. This is something that I was on the fence about initially. I always had one with me. I never used it. One time last year, I decided, I'm going to sit in this tree for a really long time. I have this thing taking up room in my pouch. I'm going to put it on and see what it's all about. It's actually pretty comfortable, but I still don't use one. And here's why. If you use a single panel saddle, this is going to be way more beneficial to you than if you have a dual panel saddle. I run the Latitude method too. It's a dual panel saddle. I can adjust both panels up and down to get the same effect that if I had this on. With a single panel saddle, this can make your longer sits more comfortable. I always had a fear of the extra cable or straps getting in the way when I draw my bow. I always thought I'd have to move that down when I go to draw. Wasn't really an issue. I did draw back. I shot at a deer, missed it, but I shot at a deer with this on. And when I hunted with Steve Shirk, I was sitting for long times in the same tree, and it did make my sit more comfortable in that time. But like I said, I have a dual panel saddle that I can just shimmy up a little bit further. The bottom panel I can make a little bit lower to get the same effect. But for guys running single panel saddles that want a little bit more comfort, I do think this can come in handy.
Talk a little bit about, a lot of guys use that, and there's a couple different ways to use it. You can use it as a lower back support, which in the case of a 2-panel saddle, you can hike that first panel up and add some lower back support. But I've also seen guys run that higher,
which is how I wore it.
Maybe like up towards like your
in
armpits, kind of around your back, which I'm not sure what they're. I don't use one. Me, the old knuckle dragger, like I'll suffer through it. So I don't know what they're actually trying to accomplish, but I'm sure you probably do.
Yeah, when I put it on, that's how I ended up wearing it, because if you're in a single panel saddle or not, you already have something down here. And if you have a pleated style panel too, like you can move that up a little bit and still get that comfort. But the only portion of your back that doesn't have anything to rest against is the top. So when you put this a little bit higher here, and you have this through your bridge, through your carabiner, this gives you something to lean against. And that was the more comfortable spot for this. But this is why I thought it would get in the way of you drawing. You have this like this.
Yeah, your bridge is already coming up to your tether.
And it's another thing in the way, and I thought I'd have to release it.
But it didn't.
No, you draw over top of it. So it doesn't do anything different than your bino harness would do. It just sits right on the side of your bino harness. So it didn't get in the way. It was a little bit more comfortable. For short sits, not really.
Not needed.
Yeah, not really needed. But for all-day sits, a lot of people talk about when they're saddle hunting, they find themselves fidgeting more. This kind of stabilizes you a little bit more, gives you something to lean back against. Put your knees against the tree this way, put this against your back this way, and you can be a little bit more stable and not move as much.
So would you say that is a product more for guys who want to lean, or because there's guys that want to lean more, there's guys that want to sit more? Like
I would say it fits the leaner more. Like I'm a sitter mainly, and that's probably why I never used it, because when I sit, I want to be as close to that tree as possible. So I put my knees against the tree and I try to get tight to the tree. So I don't really need anything back here because I'm leaning forward. But if you're leaning back like this, you have nothing to put pressure against, and you can just find yourself like falling back. So if you're leaning, it's probably more for a leaner, but I can see if you get up. Not everyone sits the whole time. If you're more of a hybrid or whatever, it could be used. But for sitters, it's probably not. It's less needed for sitters, but it definitely would fit the leaner style more, especially keeping yourself out. But you could use it, tighten it a little bit further too, and keep yourself tight to the tree as well. Yeah. If you have back issues and if you get in a weird position too long and this hurts you, you can straighten that top portion of your back out and keep you up more stable.
That's what I was going to say. It probably comes into play for, be careful how I word this, I think, but guys who maybe have some back trouble, maybe a weak core, or they just have posture issues. If they're like slumped over and not, they can't hold themselves up. But maybe, I don't know. Like I said, I think Tethered sent us some when we had
That's what this is.
Yeah, but I can't ever remember me using it maybe more than just like at the office on the pole or something.
Yeah, I used it on one hunt, and from that hunt, I've always carried it with me because if I'm like, well, I'm going to be here for a long time, I'll put it on. It's super easy. I have the one from Latitude with what I run now, and it's a lot easier to put on than this. This has a bunch of different straps. That one's just one strap, goes through, you buckle it, and it's good. But it's not a necessity. So it's not something that you're like, oh my God, I can't saddle hunt unless I have a back band. Absolutely not the truth. It is an added piece of comfort if you are a guy that needs more comfort, or if you find yourself sitting in longer scenarios. I will say for that instance, it is something, it's tiny. You can stuff it in your pocket if you wanted to. So I will say it's a piece of gear, but it's definitely not a need. It is more of a want.
Now, have you tried different, like I'm not much of a saddle guy, but when you're leading back, have you tried different angles drawn and things and stuff like that? So it doesn't really get in your way?
Not if you have it like up here,
yeah,
it's going to, but you shouldn't have, your bridge should never be that long.
Right.
So your carabiner should always be down here. So because to get comfortable with it, I moved it a bunch of times, and that was my biggest fear, was if a deer comes in, catches me off guard, can I draw and shoot? And I didn't have any issues with it. But when you have that on and you take the pressure off of it, it's just going to fall down anyway. So if you go to take a weak side shot or something, you contort your body, it's just going to fall away.
Right.
So it's going to be out of the way at that point anyway.
That's a good point.
You don't even know it's there. So the only way it stays there, if you have pressure against it, you lean up, it falls away. So it's not going to get in your way. And if you had any issues with like, okay, well, I'm going to turn this way, it's just going to fall away.
Yeah.
You're going to take the pressure off it. So like I said, I don't think it's something that every saddle hunter needs. I think more saddle hunters don't use it than use it. But for an all-day sit, get a little bit bigger platform, throw one of those on, and you can have, it's the fidget factor. It takes away some of the fidget factor, which a lot of people have an issue with saddle hunting.
How much dough is that going to run somebody?
I think they're pretty cheap. They sent it to us. So I don't know. It's like $20, $25. It's fairly affordable. The Latitude one is mesh. It's not a full fabric, so it's a little bit more breathable, whatever. Minimalist things, negligible things, but it does add a little bit more comfort. What'd you bring?
So I got these are called Amsteel Quick Draws from the Amsteel guy. My buddy gave them to me, and I'm going to run them this year. So basically, I got my stick here. And for you saddle guys, like you can put the yellow part through your belt loop or your saddle or whatever, and stick it through, and it loops through. And basically, like this thing goes up and down here. So you can loosen it, tighten it. Let me stand up here. So you got your stick, and you just put it through Versa button, and it just kind of hangs off to the side. And you can hang your saddle on it. You can kind of do whatever. They're obviously extremely light, and they don't make any noise or anything. So I think it's going to be pretty cool. Like I'll put one stick up, and then I'll hang the other two sticks off the side, one on this side, one on that side, climb up, and it's just easy. Slide it right off, put it on the tree, next one, and then my stand's on the back, put that in the tree, and I'm good.
So it's a part of like your ascending system.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I fiddled around with it the last few days because my buddy gave it to me like last week, and that company, that guy makes some pretty cool stuff. I'm sure you guys have heard of the Amsteel guy. Yeah, he makes a lot of things for saddle hunting and like sticks and stuff like that. So I think they're pretty cool. I know there's a lot of companies that have like different things, like they're plastic or hanging off your belt loop or whatever. Like that's light, that's quiet. It's pretty cool.
Super.
It just loops right through. Yeah, and then there's like two loops there. One loosens and tightens, and then the other one just kind of hangs off if you want to throw your saddle on it or whatever. Just helps you kind of be more efficient going up and down the tree.
Yeah. So just a little stopper knot there to keep it from.
Yeah, to keep it from not getting too tight. Yeah. Right. Yep. Exactly.
The cool thing about like the mobile hunting, I call it the mobile hunting scene, is like there's a lot of innovation going on with stands, sticks, saddles, just across the board. Like competition is breeding innovation, and it's a win for consumers. But we have all these little nuances where guys can take a quality product and kind of make it their own and make it work for them, which I think is probably the biggest deal out of everything, because not everybody hunts the same. Even between the three of us, there's a lot of different nuances, the way we climb, the way we set sticks, the way we
Yep.
ascend, the way we descend, and just having the ability to buy $20 items to make a system work for you, man, that's a big deal.
It's pretty cool. It's like kind of the allure of mobile hunting too. Like, what do you do in the off season in February, March, April when you're done scouting? Well, you tweak
You
with things.
tinker.
Yeah, you
Yep.
tinker.
Practice.
And you find little things like this that are going to make your setup more efficient. I have a very similar setup that does the same thing, but this is one tool. And I'm so into like just using one thing. Right now, I have paracord that hangs off my stick. So I have a piece of paracord there, and then I have an S-beaner on my saddle in my loop. I loop the paracord onto that. This I could just put this on my saddle, leave it there. It's out of the way. A lot easier to access than an S-beaner because it's bigger, it's longer. That S-beaner is so tight to my saddle that I'm all up here. This hangs down a little bit, loop it on the stick, and it's good to go.
Yeah.
I like these a lot.
Yeah, they're pretty cool. And
You
when
go-
I'm hunting like close to a bed in the swamp, like I hunt a lot of swamp, so I want to try to do the least amount of movement and try to be as quiet as I can. Because if I don't have these things hanging off, my sticks are laying on the ground, they're laying on, under my tree stand, under the tree I'm hunting, and I have to go up and down each time. If these things are just hanging off, I can just go real slow, grab it, hook it off, hang it, tighten it. Next one, I'm good to go. So
slow is smooth and smooth is fast.
Exactly. So I'm trying to get up there quick but slow, to be quiet and efficient.
It's crazy. I can look back at like, I don't even know, the hunts even last year, because I guess with the beast system, I use the gear ties. I've used a couple of different things. I think the gear tie thing works for me, but I have found myself in situations where I'm looking at a tree and I know that there's branches and I'm like, okay, I can stage this, stick here, stick there, but there's always a chance, and it happens to everybody. I don't care who you are, it happens. You bump something, freaking stick ends up on the ground. You're like, added movement, added noise, like more work. There's that little frustration or fatal factor, and you're like, the
Start
confidence
sweating.
thing. Like,
Yep,
yeah, slow is smooth and smooth is fast, man.
for sure.
You ever watch Dan Infalt climb a tree? You'd probably get sick.
Yeah.
Of how
Slow,
he-
methodical,
yeah.
precise.
Yeah.
Or like Jake Bush, he's talked about it before as well, where he'll wait till the wind blows, then he'll go up and put a stick, and he'll be there for 25 minutes just because he knows he's so close to the buck that's bedded. And then he'll wait for some other thing to blow or whatever, and then he'll grab his stick and move. And it's like sometimes you just have to just do with what you got. I mean, it's a lot of people have different tech, whatever they do. I mean, it's just whatever they do. But these things, I think they'll come in handy. I really do. Just hanging off the side and then just being real slow and
Yeah, I'm gonna go buy some.
yeah.
Legit.
Yeah, you just go on amsteelguy.com, I think it is, and they're real cheap. I'm gonna buy a couple of them as well.
So what do those run? Like $5, $10, $20?
Yeah, like $20. Actually, I think they're $10, so like 2 for 20.
Okay.
Yeah, real cheap.
Yep.
You really can't beat it.
I like it, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a piece of gear.
Yep.
Yep. Very functional. All right. What I have is not necessarily a specific product. Well, it is, but I have a watertight SD card case. And I think, in my opinion, this is a necessity. I actually have several of them. I like to stay very organized. When you're running a lot of cameras, you have to stay organized with your SD cards. There was a period there for a couple years where we were running 100 plus cameras on public, didn't have a dedicated system like this. And you end up with SD cards in your pockets. They get ran through the washing machine. You lose the label, and then you lose the identification of what camera that SD card went to. Maybe you didn't download the photos or whatever, didn't dump that SD card. And it just becomes a complete headache and hassle when you're not organized in that manner. When you're running a lot of cameras. Now, cell cameras obviously have changed that, thankfully. But just carrying this with you, being organized, and also protecting your SD cards. Like a lot of people just take an SD card and they think it is what it is. They throw it in their pocket or throw it in their pack. Those contact points get dirt on them. They get scratched up. They're not indestructible. SD cards they have a lifespan, and the better you take care of them, the more than likely the longer they're going to last. Protecting them, and simply from the organization standpoint, I think this is a necessity when you're running standard SD card cameras. The way that I do it, we've talked about this in the past, but I have a system where you have 2 cards per camera. They're dedicated like A1, A2. So they're labeled per camera. They never see another device. And then the extra. So I have all my 1 series or all my 2 series in this with me per property. So if I'm going to a specific chunk of public, I'm not gonna say, I have a lot of cameras spread out. I have a dedicated case for those SD cards for every camera on that piece of public. So if I have this, I always have what I need. Like I don't have to worry about did I grab cards, from the truck or now. Sometimes I find myself in that situation because I'm less than a perfect human being, I guess. But the reality of it is for 15, 20 bucks, it's been a couple years since I bought these, so I don't really know what the current price is. They're probably a little more expensive now, but just having a waterproof organization case, I think, is a piece of gear. And I like these cases because of the capacity, the carrying capacity. This little foam insert has a bunch of different slots. I think I don't know, I could probably fit 50 SD cards in this case. And, you hop on Amazon and there's a bunch of different product types. Some of them are like a bifold or a trifold, and you're stacking 4 SD cards per page, and you only get 12, 14, maybe 16 cards in there. And to me, it's just not enough, just from a pure camera volume standpoint. So again, no brand agnostic here. Doesn't really matter. Just make sure that they're waterproof and make sure you have enough capacity to store your cards. So for me, it's simple. It's a piece of gear.
We keep all our camera equipment stuff in an SKB one. That's really nice. It's slimmer, but again, capacity that only holds about 10, 12 cards. My experience with the bifold ones is they don't hold the card in there very well. You open it up and your cards are all over the place. Those are they hold the cards a lot better. And what I do with mine is if it's a fresh card, I'll have the contacts pointing up.
Mhm.
If it's a card that I need to check, I'll have the contacts facing down.
Okay.
So you can kind of keep it organized within that too and say, okay, this is a card that can go back in a camera. These ones I need to check. So I'm not checking. You've been there before. You go to your computer to check them. You're like, which ones of these do I need to check?
Right.
Mhm.
Because you just have a bunch of SD cards everywhere. So you just have the ability to organize a lot better with those. And the protection is going to be really nice. I have one that's it's a lot taller. It's not as wide. It's taller. So they don't fit in your pocket. That's my only gripe
Yeah,
with
this
them.
does not fit in your
Mhm.
pocket.
You have to put them in a pack, so you have to have a pack with you. They don't fit in your pocket. But if you're doing this stuff on public, trekking long hauls, you most likely have a pack with you anyway. Throw it in there or hang it off the back of the pack or stick it in the water bowl pocket, whatever. I think it's a piece of gear for trail camera user for sure. I don't use one as much anymore because I'm running more cell cameras than I am standard SD card cameras. So I'm not taking SD cards with me into the woods. So I have the card already in the camera, formatted, ready to go, hang it and go. But for the long-term trail camera sets at the end of the year, pull a card, just put a card, and you're good to go.